Welcome to my first video in 2024. It feels absolutely amazing that I am allowed to say this sentence, and it's because of you that I'm allowed to say this sentence and that I am allowed to do what I do on my channel here. So I thought, what could I wish you for 2024? I mean, I could come here to my desk and with that to your craft room and say, Happy New Year! I wish you all the best for the new year. And of course, I do wish you all the best for 2024. Oh, what is that? But then I thought, wait, Louise, wait. This community out there is such a special community, and each and everyone out there is absolutely amazing. And you have supported my channel for the past years so much. And you have made me to what I am now here on YouTube. So I thought I want to give you a special wish for 2024, something that perhaps not everyone wishes you for 2024. And with that, I also want to give you an idea for something where I think that is very important. So I thought, what is the most important thing you could wish for as an artist, as a junk journaler, as a paper crafter, as a card maker, or whatever? And then I came to the conclusion that the most important thing is that you never get out of ideas. So I wish you for 2024 that you always will have really great ideas. And from your comments, which you've left below my past videos, and also from other messages, emails, and so on, let's say from your feedback, I know that some of you struggle with finding ideas, and that you sometimes say, I don't have an idea at all, I don't know what to do today. Meaning, I have no idea. And I also think that some of you have like tiny things where you don't even think about that could turn into an idea, or that it already is an idea, which could later on become a whole project, a whole journal, a card, or whatever. Meaning, I have the feeling that sometimes we can't see the idea behind a very tiny thing that we perhaps have laying around somewhere. And because of that, I thought, why don't we make a no idea pouch journal? What the heck is a no idea pouch journal? So you can guess, it has something to do with pouches. I have these here. We'll tell you later more about them. And as you can see, I'm folding pages, so that means we are going to make a journal. And this journal has a special purpose, because in that journal you can store all of those tiny things where you think, what is that? It looks interesting, but I have absolutely no idea what to do with it. And before throwing it away, before giving up, thinking more about it, you can put it into your no idea pouch journal. What am I talking about, and what could that be? I have something here on my desk that is this little thing here. This looks really weird, but this is a really good example for what I'm trying to say here. I made this the other day when I had some leftover letters from die cutting. And yeah, don't ask why you have so many letters left over. I'm Luisa Heinzel. This can happen on my desk. I wanted to make something and needed only a few letters, but the die cut that I have used had cut out, you know, those sentences, and there have been many letters left over which I didn't need for the project. So what I have done was I have taken a piece of leftover craft paper and I have put some glue on it, and then I have dabbed the paper into the letters so that they got stuck on the paper here. I have absolutely no idea why I did that. I could have thrown these away. I mean, I didn't need them in that moment, but I thought, why don't I try out if they would stick here and if this could perhaps be a starting point for something new. And I'm talking about exactly this kind of things, because I have no idea if this will turn into a bigger thing. I have no idea until now if this is perhaps the base for a journaling card, perhaps this is the starting point for a whole journal. I have no idea. But what to do with such a thing? I mean, this would become probably a little lost in your craft room if you don't have a space where you can put such a thing, where you think, okay, I don't know what to do with it now, but I want to save it for later. But where to put those things? And where can you make some notes if you have seen something, perhaps on YouTube, in another video, or on Pinterest, or wherever, or perhaps you are sitting in a restaurant and the napkin looks interesting and you think, oh, nice pattern, we could do something with that pattern, but you don't have an idea about the whole thing in that moment. Then you need space to write something down and to write your thoughts down, because those thoughts can lead you to a bigger thing in my eyes. And because of that, this journal that I want to create today shall get a lot of pages for making notes. So I have folded, if I counted right, 45 pages here. I will tell you later more about the amount and why and what and, you know. But I want to have this prepared so that we have this ready to go. Because I want to start with these pouches, because I want to turn these pouches into a journal cover. So these shall become later on the cover. So meaning one pouch is here, then all of these pages, of course they are too big, but I will cut them down later, shall go in here. And then you can flip through the journal like this, and this is the other part of the cover. Does that make sense? These pouches I bought on Amazon. So if you don't have access to something like this, then of course you could also, if you have a sewing machine, sew something like this by your own. If you know how to attach a zipper, then I think this is really easy for you to do. You could alternatively, if you don't want to use such a fabric thing, also use some other materials. You could use some leftover leather, for example, or leather. Louise, don't start the year 2024 with leather. Don't use leather. Use faux leather, okay? I'm sorry. Oh, that gives me goosebumps. I'm really sorry. Use faux leather and everything is okay. And if you want to use real leather, of course, that's your choice. Yeah, but I wouldn't use real leather. That's what I'm trying to say. But you could also take some sturdy paper and cover that with some fabric. If you don't like this kind of, yeah, this is like a shopping bag material. If you don't like that, or you want to have some printed fabric, you could also take that, glue that to some paper. And even if you don't have the possibility to attach a zipper, you could make something like a flap and then use some of those Velcro dots to close that, to be able to have two pockets for your journal. Yeah, I think if you have already made some journals, then you know how to imitate this. That's what I'm trying to say. If you search on Amazon for this, you can just type empty, or not empty, it's empty, yeah, but it's not the right word. A blank pencil case, for example, or you could also type in how are these little pouches called, where you put your bathroom thingies in, like toothbrush and so on. You can easily find these. Pouch with zipper would also be a good search word. I have problems to speak today, but I think you can find these really easily. Perhaps you also have a local like dollar store or something like that. I think it's easy to find these. But it's not necessary to have exactly these for this idea. That's what I'm trying to say. So I want to do something, but for that I need to know where the bottom is. So I'm going to close these because I want to have these little things here on the bottom of the cover later, and that's why I'm closing them, so that I can't get confused. I want to try something that I have never done on such a fabric, and I want to make some weird collage for that at the same time. So I'm going to take this paper here, because now I want to spray these with some spray stains. I have shown you some videos how I have dyed fabric with distress oxide inks, but from the ink pads, and now I want to try to use spray stain and directly spray to this fabric to see what happens. And I have chosen a relatively wintry color palette, which is frayed burlap. Oh, you can't see that so well, I'm sorry. Frayed burlap, iced spruce, frosty, and speckled egg. And I want to make this like 3 different colors. I want to start with frayed burlap here, then add iced spruce here and speckled egg here on the top. So let's see how that works. And I think it's helpful to take the spray bottle and move it like this, like you would do it with a graffiti spray bottle. Do you know what I mean? Then the ink can get easier to the whole surface. And because there have been so many... Oh, this is empty. This is nearly empty. Can I perhaps spritz some water in here to get the rest out of this? I mean, it doesn't have to be so extremely intense, but I don't want to waste this. When I have shown you how I dyed my other fabrics with distress oxide ink, there have been a lot of questions. Oh, I can't spritz because I would have to hold it like so. I just have to take my new bottle here. I'm sorry. There have been a lot of questions if you do this, if that is then washable later. I mean, this will turn into a journal. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Of course, you won't wash a journal in your washing machine. Hopefully, you will not try that. I mean, what the heck? I get an idea. Shall we perhaps try to wash a journal which is finished in a washing machine? I mean, could that work? I mean, could that work? What would happen to the journal? Yeah, but that's probably another video. I'm going to add some water to make this, you know, spread a little bit better, because I don't like these blobs there. And you have asked if you can wash the fabric that you have dyed with oxide inks, oxide sprays, spray stain, and so on. And of course, if you would put a fabric with such a medium into your washing machine, some of the ink would come off. On some fabrics, I made the experience that they get nearly totally clean again with washing them. But on the most fabrics, it's that you can wash it, but the color is like really intense, still really intense in the end, but it changes the color. I can show you an example. Here, looks really weird. Don't be scared about this. This is just a piece of pillowcase which I have used for cleaning my desk very often, as you can see. So every time when I spritz something here, or I have leftover ink or oxide ink or whatever, then I clean my desk with this. On this fabric, there's mainly distress ink and oxide ink mediums and a little bit of glue and some like black permanent ink, but that's all. And I have washed this fabric relatively often, and as you can see, it doesn't get clean anymore. So what I'm trying to say is, of course, this is not waterproof when you spritz this to fabric, and when you then, if you then would wash it, it would come off, but the fabric would probably not get totally clean anymore. So that's what I'm trying to say. And hopefully that answers your questions that you had with this other video. This turns out relatively dark, I have the feeling, but I also know that it lightens up a little bit when we dry it, but I'm a little bit afraid about this because I already know what I want to add as a focal point to my cover. Let's see if this can work. And while I'm spritzing here, I also want to take the chance to say a really, really huge thank you to each and everyone out there. You have supported my channel in the past years so much. And because I know how crazy you are, I also know that you won't stop doing that and that you will do that in the future as well. And I'm just so thankful for that. Without you, this whole thing couldn't exist. Without you, I just wouldn't be the same person. Yeah, that's a fact. Shall we add some ice spruce here on the top as well? Just a tiny little bit. Not too much. And let's turn this around then and do the same thing on the other side. And I also want to thank you that you, how can I say that? I mean, there have been a few changes here on my channel. I think that's normal when you share your journey of making, for example, junk journals like I do. Then I think it's normal that sometimes the things change a little bit and the content changes a little bit because you try out different things, and of course you want to grow as an artist, and for that you have to try out different things. But it's not so like a normal thing that the community you have on your YouTube channel, for example, is going with you. And you have done that. You have done that in such an extreme way, which is, I don't know how I have to say that in English, but that is something that is not normal for me. Yeah, it's just so heartwarming and so wonderful. You have always been so supportive, and also with those changes I'm talking about, you have always tried to say, okay, that is not my cup of tea what she's doing there now, or I don't have these materials, I can't recreate exactly what she's doing in the video, but I'm watching the video and I'm trying to take what I can take from it and transfer that to my own style and use the things that I have at home. And I'm just a little bit speechless because that is just so amazing. Because when I sit here and I mainly talk to myself when I do these videos, then I don't know how you will react, how you will react to what I'm doing here. What do you think about an idea or something like that? I don't know that in advance. How could I know it? I'm not a fortune teller. And then it's absolutely amazing to see how you react to those things and how awesome you are. It's just amazing. And I'm so, so thankful that all of you are out there and that I am able to do what I'm doing here. Because without you, I would probably have like a normal full-time job or something. And without your support, I would probably do something where I'm not happy with. And I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing here. And that is something that is really, 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 really special. And yeah, I wish I could come to each and everyone out there and hug you and, you know, spend a day with you or something. And just, you know, talking about the things that are happening in our lives. Because that's also such a thing. You get a relatively clear picture of what's going on in my life, and you get also sometimes a lot of private things from my life, if you want or not. I mean, yeah, you know, sometimes if I am doing a video here, then I'm talking about my private life, or I'm telling you I'm not so well at the moment, I have the flu or something like that, and you are always so in German it's empathisch, empathetic, is that a word? So when you empathetic, that sounds like an English word. Is that an English word? I don't know. But I have the feeling that you are my friends, and I don't say that because I want, you know, I don't want to fish for compliments, but I have the feeling that you are my friends, and that is really, really important, because I don't have many friends in real life. I mean, this is the real life as well, but you know what I mean. I don't have so many friends here in my area, and with that being said, this whole thing is even more special for me. And also, what I also have to say, I don't forget that, Louise, I'm really, really appreciative for your understanding that my English is a little bit weird. I mean, you had the best example a second ago. And I'm trying, of course, I'm trying to improve my English, but that's not so easy, because English is a weird language. And I'm really trying my best to learn new words and to, yeah, improve my English. But at the same time, I know that you have to go through that, and that you have to live with my language. And you are always so sweet, and you always say that my English is really, really well, and I think that was not good. My English is good. My English is not well. It's good, isn't it? That's the right grammar. And I'm so appreciative for that. That is not, I mean, that's not normal. Sometimes I struggle so much because I want to bring my thoughts to you, and I have already problems in German to talk about what's in my head, but you ask for that, what's going on in your head, and I'm trying to give you an idea about that, and that when I try that in English, it's sometimes as hard as it is in German, and without having the right words, it's even harder. But you always give me this feedback that you understand what I'm saying, and you help me with words. I mean, the mouth of a bird is called beak. And that's always so cute when I read your comments and I read the words. And you know, when you write the comment, then the situation in the video has already happened, and I was like a little embarrassed that I don't know those like easy words, like beak, for example. And when you then tell me the word, I remember the context, and with that I'm able to learn the word. And that makes it even more special, because with that I have really many English teachers out there. And that is just so fantastic. So thank you very much for that as well. So this is nice. This is really nice, but to be honest, I'm not so happy about this here. This is like a line. I'm a little bit confused because I have already done this in another color combination. Ground espresso, forest moss, and wild honey. Sounds weird, looks good. But there, the colors have blended better into each other. But I think we can make something out of this as well. We get what we get, right? So I want to try to get a faux bleach effect to these pouches, because yeah, on the one hand I'm hoping to get rid of these weird things here, like these lines, and a better blending, and on the other hand I want to make this like more artsy, and I want to make it look more used, and I want to take the chance to use an advantage. Ooh, that is empty, holy crap. An advantage of the spray stains here, because you know this is reactivatable with water, meaning if I now take, for example, white acrylic paint mixed with some water, or only white acrylic paint would also work, this paint would soak the ink and the paint will get stained from the ink. If you would splatter, for example, gesso to this, the same thing would happen. If you would add a gesso-based texture paste or something like that, that would also happen. And I want to try to splatter to these pouches, because then when the ink gets soaked into this paint, it looks like a faux bleach effect. But just see, I also want to add some splatters of water. Perhaps we can get another, yeah, look, can you see this? What happens here? That looks really good, I think. It's perhaps a little big. Let's do it like this. Well, shall we? No, we won't dry this. We won't dry this. We will just take our acrylic paint here, and then I want to try to get relatively big splatters here, like this. I'm trying to, let me think about this. Why haven't I thought about this before? Okay. Is this important? No, it isn't important. This is so strange when you have something in your mind, when you think, okay, this is the plan, and then you do it and you try to say something. I mean, you know, struggling with English, and it's not so easy to do what you want to do. Is this already enough? I don't know. We will. This is hard to know because it will change a lot when I dry this. Because now, perhaps you can see that already, the acrylic paint is starting to get stained by the spray stain. And now, I think if you are like me, and you want to have the outside and the inside of your cover in the same intensity and the same look, then it's important that you don't dry it now, because we have some water here splattered to the ink. The ink is also not completely dry, and the intensity of the staining depends on the amount of water we have in the material left. So if that makes sense, we can turn it around carefully without drying it, because if I would dry it, I would automatically dry this side as well, and then the effect with the white paint would turn out totally different on this side. And I don't want that. I want that in the same way. So that means we have to throw on some water here first to get these water stains. And then let's add the acrylic paint. Okay, so when I have this, I'm going to take this and put this away for a second to be able to clean my desk. And then I'm going to take my heat gun and I will dry this. So this is how it looks when it's nearly completely dry. I'm expecting that these splatters get even more like stained with time because, you know, the process that the ink soaks into the paint is not finished yet. So this will probably get a little bit more, how do you say that, faded? Don't know if that is the right word. But I want to go on and add some golden splatters as well. For that I'm going to use some tarnished brass distress paint. The most amazing gold in this whole universe. So I'm mixing this a little bit with water so that I can splatter it easier. Because I also want to make this a little warmer than it is now. But the golden splatters I want to have a little tinier than the white ones, like this. I will also do the same thing on the back side of the pouches, and then I will again dry that with my heat gun. Okay, so here we go. It's still not 100% dry, but I think we can go on with this, and I really like how this gold turned out. Can you see these little craters here around the splatters? That looks really, really nice. I'm hoping that this is still visible when it's completely dry, but we will see. We get what we get. So then let's talk about a spine for this journal cover. So if, I mean, we can decide that later, but if this was the front cover and it should open, when we have it like so, should open like this, then we would have to have the spine here and the second piece shall go here. Here's the spine and the pages, and then it shall close like this. How to know how wide the spine has to be and how to know how many pages you want to put into such a journal. I have done it like this. I have folded a ton of pages, just like this. This is just some DIN A4 paper folded in half. Then I have taken this without putting the signatures together. Yes, this is just laying on top of each other. And then I have put that in here, like so. And I, of course, don't press it like this because that would be, oh, excuse me, please. This wouldn't be the reality. I just hold it like so without pressing it. Let the paper do what it wants, because that will happen later on when we put the signatures together and bind this. That will happen as well. And this way I can see the proportion of this whole thing and how it approximately would be in the end. I also have in mind that I want to put some things into the pouches so that the cover gets like a little pillow and squishy somehow, so that it doesn't stay so flat like it is now. And with this method I came to the conclusion, when I take a ruler and put it here, that, and I hold it like, you know, like the paper wants to be, then I can see that 5 centimeters would be a good width for the spine. 5 centimeters is, let me just check here on my mat, 5 centimeters is approximately 2 inches. So I want to cut a piece of paper for the spine now. This is a little heavier. Yeah, it's I would say it's not paper anymore. It's just a piece of heavier material. This is from an old file folder. And I want to cut this now, but I want to have in mind, this is a little bit too big. Oh no, no, it's too small. Ah, Louise, what are you doing? I'm so sorry. I have to cut this here first to be able to fit it, make it fit into the trimmer. So I want to have in mind that my spine later shall be 5 centimeters, approximately 2 inches. But I need a little bit of material to attach that to the cover, of course. I need a little overlap here. And I think that for that, 1 centimeter should be enough. So that is just a tiny little bit, because I want to avoid that the width of this pouch gets too small and that the proportion looks weird in the end. So I'm going to take 1 centimeter for here. Then I have my 5 centimeters for the spine and 1 centimeter that goes to the other pouch to attach it there. Makes a total of 7 centimeters, right? So let's cut that first. When I have this, I take this and I want to have this the same height like the pouch is. Since these pouches are not exactly 100% the same size, you can also see it's like, you know, a little curve here. Let's just see if this fits on the second pouch as well. And I think this should be no problem. So then we need something to cover this, because this is, you know, not sturdy enough and it has a really weird color. So I'm going to take some fabric which matches the colors of my pouches, and then I'm going to take this and I glue this to the fabric with some gel medium. This is the gel medium by Liquitex. Using this blue piece of file folder also makes this more easier to handle, I would say, because this fabric is a little stretchy, and even if it wasn't stretchy, I sometimes have the problem to cut rectangles out from fabric, because, you know, that is not so easy. Because cutting a straight line on fabric, that is hard. And with this material, this here, it's really easy, because now I can cut around here without any problems and I get a nice rectangle. And of course, this makes the spine sturdy. Only this fabric wouldn't be enough to make this journal sturdy. So when this piece is completely dry, we can take this and make a fold here where, ooh, oh no, what is this? Where 1 centimeter is. Oh my goodness. I think that's because of the fabric, which is not so... what is this? Okay, so we will fix this. So I'm scoring at 1 centimeter and 6 centimeters, so that we have the 5 centimeter spine left. What the heck is this? I think this is just too thick. Oh, okay, so if you press harder, then it works. But make sure that this is completely dry before you do this, so that you don't destroy the paper here with the, you know, when the glue is a little liquid, then it could happen if you press too hard that you destroy this material. And of course we don't want that. So then we can take this and fold this. And having these little things here, of course, makes the whole journal in the end way more sturdy. I'm also doing this because I want to have this being a soft cover, because our pouches are like soft as well. But at the same time, I want to have this sturdy. And if you imagine that we have these and the pages in the end here, and the spine is on here like so, then this little thing here makes the whole thing more sturdy, and it avoids that this piece of the cover can make movements like this. Perhaps you have experienced that with soft covers, that sometimes when the pages are in, it moves really, really weirdly. And with this sturdy edge here, that can't happen anymore. Or perhaps it will move a little bit, but not so much than if this was only fabric. So then we have our 5 centimeters here and these little guys here. And now I want to decorate this spine a little bit, and I found the perfect piece of lace. That's this one here. This is by coincidence exactly as wide as I need it. As you can see, it's exactly 5 centimeters. But of course, you could also take 2 pieces of, you know, more narrow lace and just puzzle them together. You could also leave the spine blank, of course. I'm cutting this a little longer than I need it because I want to sew it on here now. And you know, I'm not a sewing machine expert. So I will take this to my sewing machine now. And with having this a little longer, I have an easier job. I can always cut this to the right length later. So here we go. As you can see, I went a little crazy with my sewing machine, and I did that because I wanted to have this black thread really, really visible, and I wanted to have this visible rectangle here so that you later on can see that it is really a spine of a book. And I also have done that because of the black zipper material here, so that this matches each other as well. So now we can take this and cut this off. So then we can take this and assemble the cover. One thing that I would like to mention is, look at this. So I just had some lunch before I have sewn this, meaning there have been some hours in between. And as you can see, the white acrylic paint has changed a lot. Can you see that it's way more faded and stained than it was before? And now it has this like faux bleach effect that I was looking for the whole time. So you can see when this dries completely, it gets this cool effect. I'm really happy that it stained, so has gotten stained so much. So let's now decide which of the pouches shall be the front piece. I want to have the zippers when they are closed here on the bottom right. So we could do it that this is the front cover or this. That is hard to decide, but I think we are going to take this here. That has a reason because that I decide that because I want to have a label here later and a bird sitting here. And I think these splatters are the perfect background. Here it's a little darker and we probably won't get so much contrast than with the lighter areas here. So that's the only reason why I'm deciding that this is the front cover now. So that means when this is the book, then this is the front cover and it opens like this. Then we need to take the spine and attach it here like this. And then the second pouch goes on here like this, so that it then later on can close like this. And this is then the outer part of the back side of the book. I mean, you know. So we want to attach it here like this. And now if you want to sew this on, you could think, okay, I will turn the whole thing around to have the nice side of the sewing on the outside of the cover. But please be careful. I would recommend to take this like so to your sewing machine and line this up here really exactly, and then sew over here with a running stitch. and over here as well, then turn it around and make the like decorative stitching on the other side from the other side of the pouches, because you want to have the pouches lined up exactly here with your fold, so that later on this can flip like so really easily. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine again, and I will first sew here, then I will turn it around and make a little, you know, artsy stitching. So here we go. Then it looks like this, and this looks like a journal cover now, I think. One thing that I want to mention is, if you don't use glue here, so this is just sewn now without any glue, please make sure that your stitching goes really close to the edge of this fabric, which is glued to this blue material here, because when you close the journal later, you have this edge here, and if you don't attach this completely here to the very edge, then it could happen that this lifts off, and of course you don't want that. So I made sure that my zigzag stitching along here is really touching this edge here, so that it is really well attached. If you don't have a sewing machine, of course you could do this whole thing with glue as well, but also with that, make sure that the glue goes to the very edge here, otherwise this will come off later. So next, we want to have some pages in here, of course, and I want to cover up this ugly color here. So let's take another piece of this. Which has the same ugly color. We will cover it up. So we will need a piece now which is as long as this is and 5 centimeters wide, or if you have chosen other measurements, the width that you have in between of the two pouches, meaning in my case this is 5 centimeters. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut this. So now I'm going to take another piece of this fabric. I'm going to glue this down here again as well. So we are going to take this, and I'm leaving a little space around here because we need that on the left and the right. And now I'm going to cut the fabric on the top and the bottom here where the blue material ends, so that it is the same length. And now on the left and the right we have to leave some of the fabric, and in my case I want to leave about 1 centimeter, like on the outer part of the book cover as well, because I want to sew this on later as well, meaning this piece will go later on in here like so. Here are the signatures then, and this part here is overlapping and it's on the pouch later. And I'm going to eyeball 1 centimeter. And since I have these rectangles here with my sewing, I want to have that here as well. So I'm just going to take this to my sewing machine. I'm going to sew from this side because I can see that better, but this is just for decoration. I just want to have a little sewing around here that has no special reason, just some, you know, it's nicer. Okay, so here we go. We have this, and now when we sew in the pages, we have to pay attention to several different things. So make sure that you know where your front cover is and that you have it in the right direction, so that here's the bottom and there's the top. Then you can open this, and I like to make a little arrow here in the middle so that I know from the inside that here's the top. I mean, I can see it with the colors, but you know how that is. You are concentrated to something else and then you don't pay attention to that. We need to make sure that we know where the top is here. And this piece here, where our pages will go later, needs to have this arrow as well. So I'm going to turn this around, make an arrow here so that I know that later on this piece here is on the top. I mean, this is on the top, and then I can turn this around and put it in here like so, and the pages are here. Then we need a template for poking the holes into this piece so that we are able to sew the pages in. I like to use some grit paper for that. I know that is not everyone's taste, but for me it's the easiest way to do this. And of course you could do this from another piece of paper as well, but grit paper has some advantages in my eyes. The first thing that I like to do is I like to cut off this half square that I often have here. So you know, when these papers are printed, the squares on the edges are not always full squares, and that is a problem. So I cut that off. And I know that one of these little squares is 0.5 centimeters. So I know exactly, without measuring, where my 5 centimeters are, meaning I need 10 of these little squares to get 5 centimeters. And I can cut this off. Then this should be the same width. Yes. And we are going to make this as long as the blue piece is, of course. Of course, you could also take a normal piece of paper and just measure that, but it's easier. For me this is easier, but please, you do what is the easiest thing for you. I've made an arrow here as well, so that I know that here is the top of my template. And now I want to show you how I mark the positions for my holes. I'm going to use 6 holes for my binding today, but you can do this with the grit paper with any amount of holes. You could also do that with only 3 holes if you have a smaller journal, or with even more holes than 6. That works with every amount of holes. So there have been a lot of questions about how to use the grit to find the holes, so I'm trying to answer as many questions that I got as possible. So the first thing that I like to do is I like to find the position for the holes that are here in the middle somewhere. So we will have 2 holes somewhere here, 2 here, and 2 here in the middle. And for that I want to find the center of this piece of paper. I'm going to take this and I'm just folding this in half. I'm going to make a little line so that you can see where the fold is, because that was one of the most asked questions ever here on this channel. As you can see, my line now is not on one of the lines of the grid, and it's also not in the center in between of 2 of those lines. And that brought some of you like sleepless nights, obviously. And I'm really sorry for that, because you have been struggling with the position of this and how to count now these little squares to find the first mark for the first hole. Just ignore that this here is not on one of those lines and that it is not in the center, and then just count. Yeah, so meaning, let's start here on the outside so that it's easier to see. I'm using this line here as an orientation for my counting now, but I'm going to start on, you can't see that so well. If I have my pencil there, then it's just covering up everything. So I'm going to take this line here, which is directly above my mark there, where the middle of the paper is. And from here, I'm going to count. And I like to use 4 or 5 of these squares, but that really doesn't matter. For me, it's important that it is the same amount in this direction and in this direction. So meaning I'm going to count from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side here to the bottom. I'm going to take this as orientation, and I'm going to take the next line that I have here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here is the next row that I need here. That also means, of course, that this line here is now not exactly in the center in between of this and this, but That's why we made this here, and you will not see that later. You can just ignore it. I know that it is not 100% exactly, but you won't see this little distance later. I mean, you won't see when you have this, that these holes are not 100% in the middle of this length. Who will see that? No one will see that. So then, when we have these holes, we can also decide for the position of these holes and these holes here on the bottom, but have in mind that the spine in the most cases is longer than your pages will be in the end. Meaning, before we make these holes and these holes, we need to know how long the pages are. So if this is in here later and this is in here, and we take a page, this was just DIN A4 and I folded that in half. When I put this on here now, you can see this is too long. If I would leave it like this, the pages would peek out later. Look, and we don't want that. So we need to know how long the pages shall be here. To decide that, I'm going to take one page and I'm making myself a little template. And for that, I'm going to use this here as an orientation and the length of the cover, because I know that it is as long as this, and this is, you know, not attached and it's loose and it's not so easy. And the next thing is here with this pouch, you can see that it has this little curve here on the end. And I want to have that in mind when I decide now for the size of the pages. So I'm going to take this and I put this here so that I can make sure that the page is below this curve. I don't want to have the pages peeking out here later, but I don't want to have this distance too big. Yeah, so I'm going to, I think I'm going to do it like this. So this is just covered up, and this is now approximately 1/2 centimeter, I would say. So when I have this position, and when I can, after I could see it here really well, I take this, I just move it a little bit to the right so that I can see, or better to the left, Louise, because the curve is probably here. I'm so sorry. Let's move it like this so that I can see what I'm doing here. Just like this, and then I can mark here where I have to cut the page, so that when we cut this off, this should be in between of this curve and this curve, so that this is covered up. Okay, that is really nice. Now we need to know how wide the page has to be. For that, I like to take this and do it like so that I can imagine how it will be later. Then I'm going to put the page in here like so that it then touches the spine here. And then, if I have that, I can press with my fingers here, put it down, so that I can here now see how long the page can be. And I think I want to have this in one line with the sewing of the pouch here. You can't see that so well. I show you that in a second. So I can see the stitching here of the pouch. I'm going to mark this here so that we now can cut this off and use this one page as a template. So when I now put this in here again like this, and I press it, then you can see that it has this distance, which is also approximately 0.5 centimeters, and it lines up approximately with the stitching here of the pouch. I think that is a nice addition, so that when this is in here now, we have exactly the right size for our pages. Okay, so then we can put this aside, and we know that our template and also this piece is exactly the same size, so we can go on working with the template, because we need the position for the holes here and here, of course, as well. And now if you put this here next to the template page, you can see that this piece is, of course, a little longer than the page, because, you know, we want to have this distance here and here, where the page is smaller than the cover. So we need to center this first, I'm really sorry. I have to turn that around, otherwise you won't see anything anymore, because I would have to put my head over that, and then you would see my hair, but not not what I'm doing here. So I'm going to center this, and then I make a little mark here where the page ends, and here on the other side where the page ends, so that I now know with these little marks here on the end that later on when I poke my holes, the pages have to lay in between of these marks, and they are centered on the length of this. And with that, we also know that we have this little distance here on the top and on the bottom where nothing is, so that we now can decide where we want to have the holes on the top here and on the bottom. And for that, I'm going to take this little mark as orientation, and I like to go 3 or 4 of these squares down from this mark, meaning from the edge of the paper here. So let's take 4 today. I mean, it's not really important if 3 or 4, but you want to make this like secure, yeah? So if you have pages which have all the same size, like I have today, then you can go relatively far to the top here, in my opinion, to make sure that this top hole here is relatively close to the edge. Then it's sturdier in the end than if you would have the hole, for example, here, and this whole distance has no thread in the end. But if you have only a few pages in your signatures which have the full height, and the other pages would be, for example, like this, then it would make no sense to make the hole this high, because then you would only poke through 1 or 2 pages, and the rest of the pages, which are smaller and probably in here, they would get no hole. Do you know what I mean? So don't do this like blind, but think about it and think about the height of your pages. But in this case, we can put the hole relatively high because all of the pages have the same size. And from this line here, we can go 3 or 4 squares down. So let's take 4 today. Why not? That really doesn't matter. So that we have the next line here. And of course, I want to have the same distance from here to here, like from here to the hole that has to go here. So I have to make sure that I have the same amount of squares there. That's 4 here, meaning I'm going to take this. And now here is the same problem like with the middle, and you could be confused. Here, this little mark is not on one of the lines of the grid paper. So what are we going to do? We just ignore that. We imagine that this is here on the next line, and we count from here, so that we have then 1, 2, 3, 4, and the next hole or line of holes is here. So that we have just ignored this little space. Again, we have made this arrow so that nothing can happen if we do it like this. So then we are here, and we had 4 squares in between here. So we need 4 here as well, so that this is the last hole we have to make. Yeah. And now, Barbara, listen very carefully now. Barbara at 49 Dragonflies had a video a long time ago. I can't even remember which video it was. There she has made a paperback journal, I guess, and she had a really like weird measurement for her spine in her eyes because she was trying to use my grid paper method. So I want to mention that as well and explain what I was thinking. And Barbara, that is the solution or the answer to your question, because she said, so let's imagine this was a paper bag and you have taken a whole sheet of something, a paper bag, fabric, don't know what, an envelope, bubble wrapping envelope or whatever, and you have just taken the whole piece and decided to make a cover. You haven't taken 3 pieces and measured and sew them together. You have just taken the piece and you have done it like this, put your pages in, and then you got the width of your spine automatically because this is what was left over. Do you know what I mean? Then it could happen that your spine is not 5 centimeters or 6 centimeters or something that you could measure easily. It could also be like an odd measurement. Yeah. So Barbara had the problem, and perhaps you have that problem as well. That's why I'm trying to explain this here. You could have the problem that your measurement of the spine is not a regular amount of these squares. If I have 5 centimeters, then I have 10 squares. If I have 6 centimeters, then I have 12 squares. But what if you have, for example, 5.5 centimeters or 5.3 centimeters or something really, really weird? You would need, in any case, you would need the information how much space you want to leave in between of the signatures. And in this case, with the grid paper, I always decide between 0.5 centimeters and 1 centimeter, because each square is 0.5 centimeters, meaning I could use these little marks here for putting my signatures, or I could use each second thing here. Yeah, so if I would skip one and use only each second mark here, then it would be 1 centimeter, and if I would use each square, then it is 0.5. But what to do if this is not regular? That is really easy. Just take this, decide if you want to have 0.5 or 1 centimeter in between of the signatures, and then center that to your grid paper. And if then here is, for example, 1.5 square, and here's 1.5 square, yeah, where's the problem? Do you know what I mean? No one will notice that in the end. If you have a half of a square more distance here and here, that is not so important. The important thing is that it is centered. And if you do that, then it is not important how much space you have here and here. Barbara? Did that make sense? I mainly did that for you because you have been struggling, and you have even asked me in the video what to do if this is not centered. So I hope that this answers your question. And of course, there are more possibilities than leaving 0.5 or 1 centimeter in between of the signatures. You could also leave 0.75 centimeters in between, yeah. Or if you work in inches, you would probably think in quarter of inches, I guess. And I guess that there where you live, if you use inches, the grid paper is also a little different. But I think that doesn't matter. Even if your squares on your grid paper, which you have available, are bigger than mine or smaller than mine, that doesn't matter. The point is that you have this as an orientation, and that you can do that really regular, and that you get a really nice appearance of the signatures later, because everything is nice and regular, and this is easy because you don't have to measure the distance in between of the signatures. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So, of course, if you have any more questions, then please feel free to leave a comment, and I will try to answer the questions that you have, of course. So now we have to make the holes, because only with these little marks, that's not enough. So we need the holes in here, and we want to use this template for making the holes. And I have decided for this journal that I want to leave 0.5 centimeters in between of each signature, because I think that that looks nicer in this case. And I want to have the pages which shall go in here as note paper. Yeah, I want to have this middle part as a notebook, and not like, you know, something that is meant to glue really bulky collages on it. Of course, you could do that, but this journal, this No Idea pouch journal, is meant to have space for notes here in the middle, and all of those bulky things that you collect for example, where's my example now? This here, you will probably put that later on into the pouch, into this one or into this one, to have this as a loose piece of inspiration. If you would take this and glue that to one of the pages, then it's glued there and you can't use it for your project anymore. Yeah, so these like ephemera pieces or pieces of something are meant to go in here, and the pages are meant to use for making notes. That was the plan. So I don't need so much space in between of the signatures. And the other thing is, if I would have 1 centimeter in between of the signatures and the journal is closed later, then it would be really, you know, like this, if you don't glue something to the pages, because then the distance in between of the signatures would be relatively much and you would have this space, and I don't like that for a notebook. So I have decided to take 0.5 centimeters in between of the signatures, meaning I'm going to use every little mark that I already have here on my template, and I'm going to use each square, if that makes sense. So that means I'm going to take this and I line this up. You could take some paper clips. If you have never done this before, I can recommend to use some paper clips to hold this in place, or some removable tape or something. Could also glue it with some, or tape it with some washi or something. But I like to do it like this, so that I then can take my awl, and I know that this is the first row where I have to poke my holes now. And when I do this now, I'm going to just poke in here where those squares are. And with that, I automatically get the amount of signatures that fit into my journal. In this case, that is 9 signatures, because with doing this, I get 9 holes. And each hole is now exactly there where the squares are. Can you see? So I'm going to do this for the other rows as well. I'm always looking here where I have made this little mark, and then I can just poke in here. Okay, so when we have that, we can remove this and check if we can see the holes from here. Sometimes when you have a fabric that is relatively thick, you can't see that so well, but here it's okay. If you see that you have really tiny holes here because the fabric is too thick, you can just take your awl and poke into the holes here and, you know, do it like this, like with a screwdriver, and make the hole a little bigger. I'm relatively proud that I knew the word screwdriver now, but you know what I mean. But I like to keep the holes relatively small, because especially when you have fabric here and you poke from here, then it can happen that you poke, it happens that you poke the paper through the fabric, and then it makes these little craters here. And if those are too big, I'm really annoyed by that. That drives me crazy. So this is the maximum crater size that I can handle with my nerves. So I like to keep the holes as small as possible. So when we have that, what do we have to do next? We have to build the signatures and cut the paper into the right size, of course. So we know we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 holes here. We need 9 signatures, and then we have to decide how many pages we want to put into one signature. How the heck can you decide that? My trick is the following. I'm going to have I'm going to take paper, yeah, like this. I already know that this is enough, but if you don't know that, just take some paper and then fold this, even if it doesn't have the right size now, just fold it and just take this whole thing, you know. These are no signatures yet, it's just the paper, but it doesn't matter. It makes no difference if you have the paper like this or if you already have built signatures. That makes no difference because the thickness is the same. Yeah. So just take this, take your cover, place the paper here where it approximately will go later, and just close the book. And then you can get a really, really good imagination of what you are doing. You can press this down, and that's it's no difference if you have a hard cover or a soft cover. Yeah, so it perhaps feels a little different, but this trick you can do with a hard cover as well. You can see if you now have this here, that this front cover is parallel to your desk. It's not like this, because if it was like this, you have too many papers in your cover, I would say, because I mean, imagine it would be like this, then you couldn't work in it later anymore. You couldn't glue anything to the pages. Yeah, it's just too much. But if it is like a rectangle, I think that's not the right word. I know that it is not the right word, but I don't know the right word. Like a box. Do you know what I mean? So that this is parallel, it's like a box. And if you have it like so, you can here already see that it looks really, really regular and that the cover doesn't open like this. Yeah, so if you hold it like so, you can see this is good. Imagine you had not so much, then you can see this is, if you press it, it seems to be like there could be more. Yeah, you can feel this, that it could be more. And if you put it to your table like so, and you press here, you can see that there's a lot of space. And especially with the soft cover, if you press here, you can see here is a lot of space. If you need that space because you want to have some bulky ephemera in here, leave it and take less pages. But if you want to have something like I want to have here, make sure, I mean a notebook, then please make sure, is this the right direction? Yes. Make sure that if you put it in here, it is like a box. Does that make sense? So I have decided that I want to have 5 pages per signature. And I have some eco-dyed paper here, so I think I want to have this as the first page because I thought, look, oh, that looks really nice. So I have some eco-dyed paper here and just some grit paper, coffee-dyed, just not coffee-dyed, some coffee-dyed paper without grit, and so on, just some, you know, neutral paper. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to take 5 pages per signature. Why? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would say if you're new to junk journaling, that is like experience. It's something like you will feel that one day how many pages you need and what is not enough and what is too much. If you have this here, this, and you press it, then it feels like, yeah, it's so hard. It is a little bit squishy, but not too much. If you would have more pages than 5, let's make something that is really extreme. Let's take more paper. With this video, I also thought I want to answer questions that you have asked in the past, but that is sometimes not so easy. But look, if you see this, can you see how can you see this angle here? And can you see this? That is not so good because imagine we said we want to have, let me quickly do something. We want to have 0.5 centimeters in between of each signature, right? So imagine you would have the next signature with this, which is also like this thick. I don't even need so much paper to show you that. Look, if you put this together and you hold it, don't press it, yeah, because it won't be pressed in the end when the book is bound together. Just hold it like this. Then you can immediately see that this distance between both of these is already more than 0.5 centimeters. I would think that this is already like a centimeter or so. Oh, that's not so easy. Yeah, look. This is already about a centimeter, meaning if we would take so much paper and only leave 0.5 centimeter in between of the signatures, it would like press together here. I do it really extremely now. Imagine this would be pressed together. What happens here? This gets like so, and you would have an alligator mouth in the end. Meaning if you have too many pages in a signature, you will automatically get an alligator mouth. And if we talk about 0.5 centimeters, then we can't put too many pages into a signature. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully, hopefully, hopefully. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's also, of course, depending on the thickness of the paper. Yeah, this is relatively like normal copy paper, I would say. So perhaps you can understand that better if I put together the other signatures with 5 pages each as well, and then we put this in here, then you can see that better. So I will quickly do that. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so here we go. We have 9 signatures here now with 5 papers in each signature. And if I take this now and do the same thing, and even if the papers have not the right size yet, if I hold it like this and I look to the spine here, I can see that this is really regular and that it fits in here, and that now the distance in between here is approximately 0.5 centimeters. Of course, for example, look here, this is a little bigger than here, but you know, the average distance is approximately 0.5 centimeters. That sounds probably totally overwhelming if you have never done this before. What I'm trying to say is, try to feel this. That sounds really weird because measuring would be easier than feeling. Yeah, but I think with the time and the more journals you make, you get this feeling that this is okay and that this will work. Yeah, so now what do we have to do now? I'm going to take this and I'm going to go to my big guillotine trimmer to be able to cut all of these pages here into the right size now. I'm going to take one signature at a time. This is our template page, so I know that I can line this up now and that I have to cut here and here from each signature so that I have the same size, like this paper is here for all of the pages. So here I'm back. These are the right size now, so that we now can start with the binding and put them to this little piece here. So for that, if you have an order of your signatures, make sure that they are laying here on your desk in the right order. I'm laughing because it happened so often to me that I had the wrong order in the end. When I had finished everything, I noticed, ooh, one signature is not in the right place. In this case, I only want to make sure that this is my first signature because of this beautiful paper here. So that means I have this, and now I'm turning this whole thing with all of the signatures around because I want to start with the last signature. I found out for myself that it's easier for me to start with the last signature instead of the first signature. I don't know why that is, but it's a fact for me. But please do that like you feel comfortable with. So we need a thread, of course, and a needle. And oh, by the way, if you don't have such a book cradle, then you could also alternatively poke the holes by taking the signature and put it to your table like this, and then poke through here with an awl. You could even take a thicker needle to make the holes, but please be careful that you don't destroy your table if you poke through here and the needle comes out here, and make sure that you poke parallel to the table so that you really come out here and not like on the page somewhere here or here. A better solution, if you don't have something like this, would be, in my eyes, to take a book, open that like so, put that to your table, and then you can put your pages in here. And if you poke then through here, you will automatically come straight through the paper. And this works like, you know, like a B version of this. So let's put this in here and let's take a thread. Where's my needle now? If you ask me, Luisa, how long do you make your thread? I have absolutely no idea. I like to have a thread which is handable. Handable? Is that a word? A length of thread that is handy. And if my thread is not long enough, I just take a second piece of thread. I know there are people who measure how long the thread shall be, or has to be, but I don't like that. So here's my thread. I'm going to make a knot on the end, which is big enough so that it can't flop through the hole. What is the word? So that it can't slide through the hole of the spine. Meaning relatively big. So I make several knots here, just like this. We won't see this in the end, so it's not important that this is nice. And then, because my brain works a little weird, I'm going to take this, and now I explain that in detail, because this mistake that could happen with this thing, oh, I can't tell the journals, the amount of journals where that happened to me. Oh, look, we have this, and we have looked to it from this side for the whole time, yeah? But this is the back. So don't put the signatures here. We want to have them here so that we see this beautiful fabric in between of the signatures later. Meaning you have to look here, where's the arrow, make sure that it is on the top, then turn this around, and if you want to start with the last signature, like I will do it in a second, we are going to take the bottom hole of this last row here. Yeah, so here's the last row. Let me show you from the other side. Here's the last row, and we take the bottom hole and we come from the outside to the inside here. Because then, if we... this thread is some kind of a bitch. I'm sorry. Like so. Then we have the knot here, and we can start sewing with the thread here. And then later on, this whole thing goes in here like so, with the pages here. Yeah. Make sure that the fabric is facing you. So then, let's put this out of the way. We have the last signature here. With this book cradle, you can easily line the pages up just by, you know, putting them against this edge here. Then I'm going to take some paper clips and just clip these together. Make sure that everything is here, like, you know, pressed to the center. And now I place it here because I need a little space here, because when I now take my template, and this is the same template I've used to make the holes into the spine piece, I can use this again. I put this in here now like so, but I have in mind that this little mark here on the top and this little mark here on the bottom, they have to line up with the edges here and here. Yeah, I have to make sure that I put this in here, and the signature has to be in between of those lines so that the signature gets the right position, height-wise or centered-wise. Do you know what I mean? Can you see? There's this, ooh, I'm so sorry. There's this little mark, and it lines up with the edge of the paper here. And on the bottom, it's exactly the same. So then I can hold this here. And because of the marks on the template for the spine, on this template, we can exactly see where we have to poke now. So I'm going to take my awl and poke here where we made the holes into the spine before. And then I have the holes in the paper here in exactly the right position. Just like that. Then take this out. Take the needle. Take the signature, go in here into the bottom hole here on the first hole on the bottom. We come in here like so. Fiddle this through here. So then we take the needle, go into the next hole, and here on the spine piece through the next hole in the same row. And now it's really easy because we just go in and out and in and out and so on until we come to the top of the signature. I wish you that you always have good ideas and that you don't have such a bitchy thread like I have here. I don't know what happened to this thread. Okay, so I have it. So when we came out here, we go to the next hole in the same row, go in here, through the hole in the signature, like so. And I don't worry if I have it like this and this is not tied yet. Don't care about that. Just go on, take the needle, go to the next hole, go through here, find the right hole here. Go to the next hole, through here, and through the signature. And this looks like I'm doing it for the first time. That's because normally, if I would do this out of camera, I would place it way closer to my eyes in a little different position on my table. What is this? Holy cow! And then I could see it better. And holding this so far away from my body is not so comfortable for me. So that looks like I have never done it before. I'm sorry, but I want to explain this as good as possible. So here we go into the last hole, and then we go through this, and we come out here on the top of this row. So then I like to turn this whole thing so that I have the thread here close to my body. And now your task is to make sure that this is really tight. We don't want to have something like this. So open this to make sure that you don't destroy everything. I would recommend to take this middle thing here first so that you can pull here and you can see it's getting like tight here. And then you can take this thread here, so the end of your thread, and pull here so that you have it really, really tight. And I have done that in the past very often, I have only pulled here, but that can make that this is really tight and here it's still loose. So I have learned that it's better to take this first so that you can pull here and have this tight and then pull the rest here, and then it's really regular. I like to close the signature to make sure that here are no loops. It could happen, especially with such a bitchy thread, that you get some loops here. And if you see loops here, you have to fix this now. Otherwise, you will have a loose signature in the end, because we are going to take the same thread and go into the next hole for the next signature, meaning I'm going to turn this around so that I know that here's the top. I'm going to take my needle and I go through the next hole in the next row so that then my thread is already here in the right position, just like this. Then I can take my next signature, put it in here, take some paper clips, take my template, make sure that the signature is in between of my marks on the top and the bottom, poke the holes, take this back, and now I like to first make sure that I pull here a little bit and I look to this first hole here to make sure that this is really nice and tight here before I go on. And now I'm going to do exactly the same thing like with this signature, but I'm starting on the top here. I will go in here, come out here, go through the spine, and so on, in and out and in and out and in and out until I reach the bottom hole here. Then I will go to the next row of holes, go up again with in and out, in and out, in and out, and so on. Go to the next row and so on. Yeah, so it's always the same thing. So I'm going to do this and then I will show you what to do with the end of the thread once you have all of the signatures sewn in here. So here we go. Once we've made it here to the very end, we can just take this, the end of the thread. We go in here and fiddle the thread through here. And then we can just make 2 or 3 knots to secure the thread here. Make sure that this is really nice and tight. And then just make a knot. Like this, and I like to go through here several times to make sure that it is really secure. This should be good. Then we can just cut this off. I like to leave a little bit of thread here. I will tell you in a second why. That has a reason, because now let's think about how we made this. We have taken one thread to sew from here, like some kind of zigzag, and we came out here, meaning the whole binding is made with one single thread. The danger in my eyes is now when you later on have this whole thing in your journal and you flip through the signatures, with flipping the pages, the threads could be like a little bit, they could get loose with time because it's thread, yeah, it's not stone. Do you know what I mean? And with having all of these threads here, with flipping through the pages, of course, I mean, this is paper, this is fabric, this is a handmade journal. And it could be that later on the signatures get loose because of the use of the journal. And to avoid that, or to make this danger less dangerous, I like to do something. And that also has to do with this little piece of thread. This is just some extra security, I would say. So what are we going to do? I want to take, do you want to stay here? A piece of fabric or something similar. You could also use some collage paper or tea bags or whatever. I like to use fabric because it's easier to handle. I'm going to cut this in the same size like this blue piece is. Okay, and now I like to take some gel medium again. You could alternatively, of course, also use bookbinders glue. I mean, for the other gluing parts of this project as well. But I would say it's good to have a glue which dries a little flexible, like gel medium or also bookbinders glue, so that the spine of the journal doesn't get too stiff. this is a soft cover, yeah, so I don't want to have the spine completely stiff, but that's of course personal preference. And now I'm going to put this on here, and you see this little piece of the thread that we've left here is now covered with glue. This knot is covered with glue. The other one is going to be covered with glue as well, and that makes this knot even more sturdy. Because if I would have cut the thread directly on the knot, yeah, so without leaving this piece, it could happen that with the time and using the journal, the knot opens and then your journal is going to fall apart. And of course we don't want that, and that's the reason why I leave this thread there, so that I can glue it in between of the blue piece and my fabric now. And I'm also trying to get this gel medium soaking into the threads here, because with that I can glue the threads to the blue piece here and to the fabric, so they are like sandwiched in between of the blue piece and the fabric, and that makes that the signatures are more secure in the journal. Because, you know, I've just talked about it, we have used one thread for the whole binding, and now when this is glued, it's like single threads. Yeah, this is a single thread now, this is a single thread now, because the thread itself can't move anymore and it can't get loose over time. So then I'm massaging this in, and now we have to make sure that this here is in exactly the right position, but that is really easy. So we are going to take this, going to take our glue back, and now I'm going to put my glue only to this spine here, meaning to this blue material. And if you don't have a sewing machine, then I can recommend to do it exactly the same, because I mean, we want to glue these little flaps here of course as well, but from my experience I can only recommend that you don't put the glue here in this step as well, but just to the spine. It's easier to handle. It takes a little more time, yes, but you don't get the glue everywhere where you don't want it. That's why I'm doing it like this. I like to then turn the whole cover around so that I can see everything better. Now I'm going to take this and I place this here, and first I make sure that it is lined up on the bottom and the top, and I can easily feel that, because I can feel the material of the spine, so I can move that easily and just press with my fingers here and on the other side, and then I can easily feel that it is in the right position. And then you can lift this up, and that's the reason why I won't put glue here, because otherwise you would put your finger into the glue now. I like to do it like this, so that I now can see this blue material peeking out here, so that I then can bring this into the right position as well. Now you can just line up the blue material, which is peeking out from underneath the fabric, can line that up with this edge here of the cover. I like to take some clamps and clamp those to this little edge that we have here, so that this can't move anymore. And because I also want to do something else, I can now open the journal and take a bone folder or something similar to be able to press the material down here in between of the signatures, so that this material gets contact with the piece below and that the glue has a chance to grab. And with the clamps here you can make sure that your pages stay in place and this whole thing stays in place, especially when you have a glue which dries not too fast. then it could happen that if you don't have the clamps, that your whole thing here moves to the top or the bottom with this motion. Do you know what I mean? And with this trick, that can't happen. And now, if you use only glue and if you don't want to sew, then you can just lift this little thing up, put your glue below here, and then just glue this down. I want to sew this, so I will not put glue under this fabric, because it's just not necessary, because this is just so small or narrow that I don't need any glue below there, because my sewing will hold this together. But I don't like this edge, so I'm going to take this lace here, and where is the top? It goes this way. I want to put this over here, so I'm going to cut this off, one for here and one for the other side. Then I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and just sew this on in one step. So this on the other side, of course, and this here. So then let's talk about the front cover and the decoration for the front cover, because this, you know, I can't leave this like it is. So I want to take these two thingies here. This is just a tiny, cute doily. I want to place this here, but I want to cut off a piece here because I want to add this little label here, so that then later on the lace is peeking out here on the bottom, and here it's cut off. And I thought with these colors it would look nice to have a black bird here. And perhaps you have heard that Tim Holtz and Zizix have brought out their new release yesterday, and perhaps you have seen it, or perhaps you haven't seen it. So let me quickly explain that, because I think what they have come up with is just genius. Because, look, perhaps you know this a little older set. These are the silhouette birds, and in this set there are 9 of these birds. One of my absolutely favorite sets. This is just so amazing. And now they have brought out a new set which is called Love Birds. I'm sorry, I only have this here because, you know, as a maker for Tim, I always get the prototypes and not this original package, and I haven't printed out the label for the package, so this is what I got. But the set is called Love Birds, and the number is 666566. The number of the silhouette birds is 665861. And the cool thing is, this birdie here comes from the Silhouette Birds set, and this birdie, which is obviously bigger, comes from the new set. And this is just amazing. We can now build scenes with birds in different sizes, because these are like a similar size, of course, different shapes and different, you know, body poses. Is that a word? Position. You know, the birds look different, but the size is like similar. But now we have more birds which are bigger. For example, this one, not for example, this one, and this one. So you can see this is the same shape, but this one from the new set is bigger, and that's the same for both of these. But I want to use this one here, but I just wanted to explain the difference and the advantages of this new set. And with the lovebirds, you also get this feather, these hearts, and this little twig here. Absolutely cool. Of course, you could use the twig for the silhouette birds as well. Many possibilities. And I thought I could use this bird to place him here. So when I have that, I'm going to cut this off. Then I'm going to put my braids through here. So that means I'm going to spread the legs of the braids here like so, so that we can't see them here, that they are hidden behind the label later. But it's like, you know, faux brads because they are here just for decoration and they don't hold the label to the cover. I would think it's a good idea to take a baking paper open this, put the baking paper inside, just in case that the glue soaks through the fabric. I mean, I don't want to glue my pouch together. And then we can find the position here while this is drying. I want to cut out some birds, and I say some. I want to use only one bird on the cover, but I am going to cut out some more because I want to build some layers. So here we go. Here are my bird layers. And I've also decided to take a little acrylic plate to put that in here to have like a sturdy surface where I can work on now. Hope that will work. So I want to have this bird sitting on here, but the problem is that the label and the lace are a little higher, of course, than this. So that means we have to manipulate this a little bit. Our layers of the bird can only be here, and this has to be on the label, and the rest has to be like, has to have more layers. Do you know what I mean? So I have to decide where I have to cut this off, meaning here. So that means this thing here goes to the label here later, like so approximately. And this we have to build up with the layers to make it thicker. That should work. Shall we add a few black splatters behind the bird? I think that would make sense. The black splatters behind the bird I have made with some acrylic paint mixed with water. That gives a really nice connection between the black parts of this journal, I think. And as you can see, I've also sewn on some buttons. I have done that out of camera because sewing on buttons really wrecks my nerves. But I thought this birdie needs something to play with. And, you know, we have glued on this thicker part of the bird with all of the layers first. And then this part here, which goes to the label. And then, of course, because of the construction of the bird, we had a little gap here. So I have just cut out another layer of the bird to put that over this whole thing, so that this here is one piece and that the whole bird looks like one, and that we don't have this cut and this slot here. That makes it, you know, like really one with the label. So now we have our No Idea pouch journal ready to go. We have all of these pages here for making notes. Even if we only have like a really tiny idea of something, we can write this down. We have enough space for making different like themes of notes. Yeah, you could also use one signature for one project or one signature for one idea. If you have a bigger idea, I mean, this is a lot of space for writing. You could make also some page tabs for the pages so that you have a better orientation about your notes, but you have a lot of space here. And we have two pouches, of course, one here and one on the back. You could also use this for different kind of things. Perhaps you want to separate what you put in here. Then you have two categories, one here and one on the front. And now we can fill these pouches with all kinds of things that we can find over time. So for example, if we had this here, to use this as an example, you have seen this in the beginning of the video, you could take this, if you think this could turn into an idea and I want to store it somewhere, then you could put it here into this little pouch. And you can use these pouches for all kind of things, of course. I have taken out some things to give you some examples of what I was thinking what you could put in here. So for example, you're watching a Tim Holtz live demo video and you craft along with him and you have something like this because you've tried out a technique he has shown in the live video. Then you could take this and put this in here to use it for something else, because, you know, sometimes we do something crafting along with someone else from a YouTube video, for example, and we have something. Especially if you try techniques, then you sometimes have things that are not finished yet. And perhaps you already get an idea because the person in the video says you could do this or this or this or that in the future with this piece, but you don't have the time at the moment, or you don't have the mood, or you are not in the mood to do it right now. Take that, put this in here. Perhaps you have made something in the past and then you've decided that you want to tear it up. In this case, this was a paper bag and here was something else. And I have used this part for another project. And of course, I don't throw something like this away. But if you think, oh, that could be an idea, but not for now. Or perhaps you think, I want to make a little mini journal out of this. I mean, imagine, cut this off and this would be the perfect cover for a mini journal, but you don't have the time and you don't want to do it now, or you want to think more about this idea. Take this, put this in here, make your notes about the mini journal project here somewhere, and then later on when you read the note and you have the full idea, you can do what you have written here and take this piece out again and make the cover out of it. Those pieces that you want to put in here could also be some really strange things. I have to, or this is not strange. This is just not strange. It's just some beads. Ooh, I'm sorry. But this, for example, these are perhaps pieces where you think, hey, what is that and what shall I do with it? But that is exactly what I mean. This looks interesting. This is, of course, a keyhole, really vintage. It's an original vintage keyhole. This is real rust on here. And I got this in a Happy Mail. And if I think, okay, this is the perfect journal closure and I want to keep this idea in mind, I take this and I put it in here. Here's just enough space for those things. Or you could also, because I talked about different categories, you could also think in here, in this pouch, I put all of the paper things. And here I put all of like metal, plastic, beads, charms or something like that. So that you have separated that, would also be a possibility. This is a piece from my saxophone. I've replaced these little thingies. These are just, I don't know the English word for that. That makes that these little thingies from the saxophone close completely, and with time you have to replace them. But look, this is a really, really interesting piece, isn't it? You could use this as a closure for a journal, for example. You could make charms out of this. And to be honest, I have these in my stash since a very long time, and I haven't done anything with them, even if I wanted to do something with them. Why haven't I done anything with them? Not because I had no idea, but I haven't seen them in my craft room because they have been in a drawer. And if I take this out and I think I want to do something with them and I already have an idea and I don't want to forget this idea, I take one of these. I mean, I have several of these because on one saxophone there are several of these, but I can take one as a reminder and put that in here. And if I look in here, if I have no idea for a project and I take out my no idea journal, then I can look what is inside here. And with this, I immediately remember the idea that was behind it. Do you know what I mean? Of course, you could also put some special beads into the pouch. These I also got in a Happy Mail. And perhaps you have an organization system in your craft room where these beads are like hard to put in. So perhaps you have things where you struggle with finding a place for those things because they have like a weird color or something that you normally don't use, something that is not like a usual thing for your projects, and you don't know where to store them. It's only my opinion, but it's also part of the idea of this journal. Before, I would put these into a drawer and never look at them again and just forget them because they are like special, but something that I normally don't use. I would take these and put them in here because then I know I will use them for something special. For example, also these. These I also got in a happy mail. And with these, it's also something where I thought, I could put them into my ephemera storage. That would be no problem. They could be sorted by color very easily. But pink, you see, I got friend with pink, but I have to remind myself that I have to use pink because now I like it. Yeah, it's not so like, it has not grown in my brain that pink is a normal color for me. Do you know what I mean? I struggled with pink for years, and to use pink and to, yeah, grow with pink in my case, that can be something else for you. That doesn't have to be a color. That can be a theme or a material or something else or a medium. Aber, sorry, that's German. But to remind myself that I want to use these, and perhaps I already get an idea when I look closer to them, then it's, in my eyes, a good idea to put them into the pouch here. And with thinking about what to put in here, I also would say that you think more about the things, yeah, because this is some kind of limited space. Even if this is relatively big and you can put a lot into here, it's limited space. And once you start thinking about what to put in here, I have the feeling that your brain already starts thinking about an idea. And perhaps that is also a good starting point, and like not the straightest way of finding an idea, but it is a way. And if you are struggling with finding ideas, this could be a way to find an idea and make notes here and put the pieces that you want to use for the idea into the pouch. Because when I got those, I thought, okay, I could make some buttons out of them, yeah, just poking some holes, and then I could use them as buttons. But as you can see, they are decorated from both sides. So if I would sew them down, one side would be lost. And then I thought, I don't want to make buttons because then I would lose one side and one pattern, and that would be a little bit sad. So I thought, I have no idea what I want to do with them now. But if I am at that stage and I take this and throw this in here, or only one as a reminder and put the rest back into this bag and then into my storage, then I wouldn't forget this. And that is the sense of this journal. If you fill these pouches, the journal, in my eyes, comes to life then. When it's empty, you have the feeling, okay, this is relatively flat. But once you put things in it, it gets really interesting and unique. Look, this, can you see this? Because there's so much in here. This looks really interesting. And this makes your journal not only your own, but also I have the feeling you want to touch it. And if you can feel something here, you have the motivation to open this and see what is inside here, what makes it so thick. And you automatically take the things out and look at them instead of having them in your drawer and forget them. You know what I mean? So I know that this was a relatively long video. But I wanted to explain everything like really in detail, and I also have tried to answer some of your questions that you had for binding such a journal, and I'm really hoping that I could cover the most of your questions. If not, and if there are some more questions that you have, then please feel free to leave a comment below this video, and I will try my best to answer those questions, of course. And I would be really, really interested in what you think about this idea. And please be honest, yeah? If you think this is totally silly, then please let me know, yeah? Let me know why you think it's silly. And if you want to try it out, let me know that you want to try it out, because this idea is just something where I'm really excited about your reaction. So that's also the reason why I have chosen this for the first video in 2024. And I'm really hoping that if you try this out, that you can soak those advantages that I see behind it out of it, because, you know, this shall have a sense. And I'm really hoping that this can help you to always have ideas and always have the motivation to create something, even if it's only a tiny thing and not a full project, but it's all about those ideas that can turn into something that makes you satisfied. That's the main point. No one else has to be happy with your project, but you have to be happy with it. And I hope that such a thing and such a journal can help you with that. So I wish you very, very much fun to create something like this for your own, and I'm hoping that we will see the next time again. I have prepared some things for 2024 for you, and I'm really excited to share those with you. So see you the next time and have a very, very creative day. Bye bye.